Breaking news, Oscar award-winning actor Robert Redford has died at 89 years old. Redford's rep tells ABC News he passed away at his home in Utah, surrounded by loved ones.
Straight to breaking news, and we're hearing just in the last few minutes that the professional wrestling and entertainment star Hulk Hogan has died in the US.
He was one of Hollywood's finest. Actor Gene Hackman died this past week at age 95. Hackman's film legacy includes Oscar-winning performances in The French Connection and Unforgiven.
The entertainment world has been shaken to its core. In what can only be described as one of the darkest periods in Hollywood history, we've lost legends who shaped our childhoods, defined entire genres, and left indelible marks on cinema, television, and music. These aren't just names on a screen, these are the faces that made us laugh, cry, and believe in the magic of storytelling. What you're about to discover will leave you stunned. Some of these passings happened so recently that the news is still reverberating through the industry. Others occurred under circumstances that raise difficult questions. All of them represent irreplaceable losses to the world of entertainment. Before we begin, I want you to take a moment. Think about your favorite movie, your comfort TV show, the performance that moved you to tears. There's a very real chance that one of the artists we're about to discuss played a role in creating those memories. That's the weight of what we're facing today. Are you ready? Let's honor these remarkable individuals by remembering their contributions and understanding the full scope of what the entertainment world has just lost.
American filmmaker David Lynch has died at age 78. He was best known for co-creating the cult classic TV series Twin Peaks, as well as films such as Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, and Eraserhead.
1. David Lynch, the visionary who changed cinema forever. On January 15, 2025, the film world lost one of its most singular voices. David Lynch, the surrealist genius behind Twin Peaks, Blue Velvet, and Mulholland Drive, passed away from cardiac arrest due to complications of emphysema at the age of 78. But here's what makes this loss so profound. Lynch wasn't just a filmmaker, he was a complete artist who refused to be confined by conventional storytelling. He painted nightmares onto celluloid, composed haunting soundscapes, and created entire universes that existed somewhere between dreams and reality. Do you remember the first time you watched Twin Peaks? That unsettling feeling, the coffee and cherry pie, the question that consumed a generation. Who killed Laura Palmer? That was Lynch's gift, the ability to make the familiar feel utterly alien, to find horror in suburban America, beauty in the grotesque. His death from emphysema, a lung condition that destroys air sacs and makes breathing progressively harder, serves as a sobering reminder. Lynch was a former smoker who quit decades ago, but the damage had been done. His final years were marked by this cruel irony. A man who spent his life capturing breathtaking imagery, struggling for each breath. The cardiac arrest that ultimately claimed him was the final complication in a battle his body could no longer fight. And yet, even as his lungs failed him, his creative vision never dimmed.
You just stay alert, do your work, don't worry about the world going by. Translate those ideas to cinema or to a painting or to whatever, and figure out a way to get it done.
His influence will echo through cinema for generations to come. Lynch's approach to filmmaking was utterly unique. He didn't just direct movies, he created experiences that burrowed into your subconscious. Eraserhead, his debut feature, took 5 years to complete and remains one of the most disturbing films ever made. The Elephant Man proved he could work within the Hollywood system while maintaining his artistic integrity. And Mulholland Drive, a film that started as a rejected TV pilot, became one of the 21st century's most celebrated masterpieces. What made Lynch truly special was his refusal to explain his work. He understood that ambiguity, mystery, and the unexplained held more power than neat resolutions. In an era of franchise films and predictable storytelling, Lynch remained defiantly weird, unapologetically artistic, and absolutely essential. 2. Robert Redford, The Golden Boy's Tragic End.
The thing I live for and always have lived for is creating art. So making films is the most important thing.
And also making films with a heart.
And a story, good character development, and a heart.
September 16th, 2025. That's the date that Hollywood's golden era truly ended. Robert Redford, actor, director, environmental activist, and founder of the Sundance Film Festival, died at 89 years old. Think about the significance of that name for a moment. Redford wasn't just an actor. He was the embodiment of American idealism on screen. From Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to The Sting, from All the President's Men to Out of Africa. This man defined what it meant to be a leading man for multiple generations, but his legacy extended far beyond his performances. As a director, he won the Academy Award for Ordinary People. As an activist, he championed environmental causes when it wasn't fashionable. As the founder of Sundance, he gave voice to independent filmmakers who would have otherwise never been heard. What were you doing on September 16th? Did you know that as you went about your day, the world was losing one of cinema's greatest champions?
The tributes pouring in for a Hollywood icon, actor and director Robert Redford. A career of unforgettable roles from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to The Sting.
The details of his passing remain private, as befitting a man who, despite his fame, always valued substance over spectacle. The Sundance Film Festival, which Redford founded in 1981, has launched the careers of countless filmmakers. Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, Kevin Smith's Clerks, and The Blair Witch Project all found their audiences at Sundance. Without Redford's vision and commitment to independent cinema, the film landscape would look completely different today. As an actor, Redford possessed that rare quality of making everything look effortless. His chemistry with Paul Newman created magic on screen. His portrayal of Bob Woodward in All the President's Men helped define how Americans understood investigative journalism and the Watergate scandal. Even in his later years, films like All Is Lost and The Old Man and the Gun proved that his talent never diminished. Redford lived a life of purpose. He used his fame as a platform for environmental activism, establishing the Sundance Institute to preserve wild lands while nurturing artistic talent.
The name Robert Redford stands out. He's a legend. But legendary careers don't last forever.
He proved that Hollywood success and genuine integrity weren't mutually exclusive. The world didn't just lose a great actor, it lost a great human being. 3. Gene Hackman, the actor's actor, falls silent. February 18, 2025, marked the end of an era. Gene Hackman, arguably one of the finest actors ever to grace the screen, died from heart disease with Alzheimer's disease as a contributing factor. He was 95 years old. This is where the tragedy deepens. Hackman had been retired from acting since 2004, choosing to step away at the height of his powers.
Gene Hackman never fit the mold of a typical star, but blazed his own path into movie history.
2 Academy Awards, 4 Golden Globes, and performances in The French Connection, Unforgiven, The Conversation, and Hoosiers that are studied in acting schools worldwide. But here's what haunts me about this loss. Alzheimer's disease doesn't just take a life. It steals the person long before death arrives. This brilliant mind, capable of inhabiting characters from tough New York cops to ruthless Western outlaws, gradually faded.
I'm always attracted to parts that are, that extend me, that make me stretch.
the man who could remember complex scenes and deliver nuanced performances found himself losing the very memories that made him who he was. Can you imagine? Your greatest performances, your proudest moments, the very craft you perfected over decades, all of it slowly erased like footage on deteriorating film stock. Heart disease may have been the technical cause of death, but Alzheimer's had been claiming him piece by piece for years. Hackman's career spanned 5 decades and encompassed over 100 films. He didn't look like a typical leading man. He was balding, had a rough face, and possessed an everyman quality that made him believable in virtually any role. That's precisely what made him so extraordinary. He could be a villain in Superman, a hero in The French Connection, a complex anti-hero in Unforgiven, and a comedic presence in The Birdcage. His Oscar-winning performance as Detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle in The French Connection set a new standard for gritty, realistic portrayals of law enforcement. The famous chase scene under the elevated train in Brooklyn became one of cinema's most iconic sequences. And Hackman's intensity drove every frame.
You know, I don't consider myself a comic actor. I think of myself as a thespian.
In Unforgiven, directed by Clint Eastwood, Hackman played Little Bill Daggett, a sadistic sheriff who represented the moral corruption hiding behind badges and authority. It was a masterclass in villainy that earned him his second Oscar. Even into his 60s, Hackman was doing some of the best work of his career. His retirement in 2004 seemed abrupt to fans, but Hackman had always been a private man who valued his personal life over celebrity. He spent his final years in New Mexico, away from the spotlight, writing novels and living quietly. The Alzheimer's diagnosis, kept private until after his death, explains much about his withdrawal from public life. 4. Diane Keaton, When Pneumonia Claims a Legend, October 11, 2025. Diane Keaton, the quirky, brilliant actress who made us fall in love with her awkward charm in Annie Hall, who commanded respect in the Godfather trilogy, who proved comedy and drama were two sides of the same coin, died from bacterial pneumonia at 79.
Now we have sad news from the world of entertainment. American media is reporting that legendary actress, director, and producer Diane Keaton has died at the age of 79.
Here's what's particularly cruel about pneumonia. It's often called the old man's friend because it can bring a relatively quick end to suffering. But there was no suffering that needed ending here, just a vibrant artist who still had more to give. Bacterial pneumonia is an infection that fills the lungs with fluid, making breathing increasingly difficult until the organs simply can't get enough oxygen to function. For someone Keaton's age, what might be a treatable condition in a younger person can become rapidly fatal. Do you remember her signature style? The menswear-inspired fashion, the nervous energy, the way she made neurosis endearing? That was all Diane, authentic, original, completely herself in an industry that demands conformity. And now, that unique voice has been silenced by microscopic bacteria that overwhelmed her system.
I like seeing. I think of everything in my life that's had such an effect that is priceless, and it continues to be, is looking.
Keaton's relationship with Woody Allen produced some of cinema's most memorable comedies. Annie Hall won her an Academy Award and created a fashion revolution. Women across America started wearing men's ties, vests, and oversized jackets. Keaton made awkward cool, made insecurity relatable, made being yourself revolutionary. But she was far more than Woody Allen's muse. In the Godfather trilogy, she played Kay Adams, the outsider who married into the Corleone family and gradually realized the horror of what she'd become part of. Her confrontation with Michael Corleone in The Godfather Part 2 is one of the trilogy's most powerful scenes, a moment of moral clarity in a world of corruption. Later in her career, Keaton continued to challenge herself. Something's Gotta Give showed that romantic comedies could center on older women. First Wives Club was both hilarious and empowering. Even in smaller roles, she brought intelligence and depth. She never stopped working, never stopped creating, never stopped being authentically Diane. Her death from pneumonia feels especially tragic because it was so sudden. One day she was here, the next day she wasn't. There were no long goodbyes, no final interviews, no chance for the world to properly say thank you. Pneumonia doesn't care about legacy or unfinished business. It simply overwhelms the body's defenses and takes what it wants. 5. Val Kilmer, the tragic irony of his final battle. April 1st, 2025, and this is no joke. Val Kilmer, the intense method actor who brought Jim Morrison to life in The Doors, who was our Batman, our Iceman in Top Gun, our Doc Holliday in Tombstone, died from pneumonia at just 65 years old.
At the height of his fame, Val Kilmer was Hollywood heartthrob and unforgettable leading man in one. The 65-year-old being remembered tonight after passing away from pneumonia.
The irony here is devastating. Kilmer had already been battling throat cancer for years, a fight that robbed him of his natural speaking voice, perhaps the greatest tool in his artistic arsenal. He'd survived that battle, learned to speak through a voice box, and continued to create and inspire. But pneumonia doesn't care about your victories. It doesn't acknowledge the battles you've already won. For someone whose immune system had been compromised by years of cancer treatment, pneumonia found an opening and struck without mercy. Remember his voice in Tombstone? That perfect Southern drawl as Doc Holliday, the consumption-suffering gunfighter saying, "I'm your huckleberry." The man who played a character dying from a lung disease would ultimately succumb to a different respiratory condition. Life imitates art in the cruelest ways. Kilmer's career was marked by incredible highs and frustrating setbacks. He was notoriously difficult to work with, a perfectionist who demanded excellence from himself and everyone around him. But that intensity resulted in performances that burned into our memories. As Jim Morrison in The Doors, Kilmer didn't just impersonate the legendary singer, he channeled him. He performed the songs live on set, captured Morrison's chaotic energy and poetic soul. It's one of the greatest biographical performances in cinema history. Yet Kilmer wasn't even nominated for an Oscar. In Heat, he held his own against Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. In The Saint, he showed his range by playing a master of disguise. Even when the material wasn't perfect, Kilmer elevated it through sheer commitment and talent. The throat cancer diagnosis in 2015 changed everything. Kilmer initially denied he was sick, then reluctantly confirmed it. The treatments were brutal, leaving him with a tracheostomy that made speaking difficult. But he adapted, using technology and determination to continue telling stories. The documentary Val, released in 2021, gave fans an intimate look at his life and struggles. His death from pneumonia represents the final, cruel chapter in a story of resilience. He'd fought so hard, overcome so much, only to be taken down by an opportunistic infection.
Now, the sad news that the film star Val Kilmer, who played Batman and Jim Morrison, as well as starring in Top Gun, has died at the age of 65.
65 is too young. He had more stories to tell, more characters to create, more art to share with the world. 6. Udo Kier, the character actor we took for granted. November 23, 2025. If you're asking yourself, who is Udo Kier? That's exactly the point. Kier was a German character actor who appeared in over 220 films and television shows. You've seen him even if you didn't know his name. From Lars von Trier's films to Blade to Breaking Bad, Kier brought an unsettling intensity to every role. Character actors are the backbone of the industry, the familiar faces who make fictional worlds feel lived in and real. They don't get the magazine covers or the massive paychecks, but without them, there is no cinema. Kier died at 81, and the industry lost a craftsman who understood that there are no small parts, only small actors. His career spanned 6 decades and multiple continents, a testament to dedication to the craft rather than the fame. How many movies have you watched where Kier appeared? How many times did his presence make a scene more believable, more interesting, more complete? We rarely stop to appreciate these artists while they're alive. Now, it's too late. Udo Kier worked with some of cinema's most daring directors. Andy Warhol cast him in Flesh for Frankenstein and Blood for Dracula. Lars von Trier featured him in Europa, Breaking the Waves, Dancer in the Dark, and Melancholia. Gus Van Sant put him in multiple films. These directors recognized something special in Kier, a willingness to commit fully to any role, no matter how bizarre or challenging. In Blade, Kier played Dragonetti, a vampire elder. It was a small role, but his presence added gravitas and a sense of ancient menace. In Breaking Bad, he appeared as a warehouse foreman in a memorable episode. Even in brief appearances, Kier left an impression. Character actors like Kier are the glue that holds movies together. They create the world around the stars, making it feel authentic and populated with real people rather than extras. They're the supporting players who never get the glory, but make the glory possible for others. 7. Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa, From Martial Arts to Mortal Kombat. December 4th, 2025. Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa. The Japanese-American actor known for playing Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat and numerous memorable villains died from complications of a stroke at 75. Tagawa represented something important in Hollywood, an Asian-American actor who carved out a significant career during a time when roles for Asian actors were severely limited. He brought dignity and depth to characters that could have been one-dimensional stereotypes. A stroke is a terrifying medical event, a sudden interruption of blood flow to the brain that can happen in seconds and change everything. The complications that followed his stroke proved insurmountable. For a man whose physicality was such a crucial part of his performances, the betrayal of his own body must have been especially cruel. Think about representation in media. Tagawa worked for decades to ensure that audiences saw Asian faces in major productions. His death represents not just the loss of a talented actor, but the loss of a pioneer who fought for visibility in an industry that often preferred to ignore entire communities. Born in Tokyo and raised in various parts of the world due to his father's military career, Tagawa brought a unique perspective to his roles. He wasn't just playing villains, he was subverting stereotypes, adding layers of complexity to characters that could have been cartoonish. In Mortal Kombat, he delivered the iconic line, "Your soul is mine," with such theatrical menace that it became instantly quotable. But he also brought an element of tragic nobility to Shang Tsung, making the character more than just a video game boss brought to life. His work in Rising Sun opposite Sean Connery and Wesley Snipes showcased his dramatic range. In Pearl Harbor, he played Admiral Yamamoto with nuance and humanity. Even when playing antagonists, Tagawa ensured they were fully realized characters with motivations and depth. The stroke that claimed him is a reminder of life's fragility. One moment you're healthy and active. The next your brain's blood supply is compromised, and everything changes. The complications, potentially including paralysis, cognitive impairment, or organ failure, ultimately proved too severe for even Tagawa's formidable will to overcome.
In the wrestling ring and beyond, Hulk Hogan's persona lived up to the title of his theme song, The Real American.
8. Hulk Hogan, When Immortals Prove Mortal. July 24th, 2025. The news that Hulk Hogan died from a heart attack at 71 years old broke the internet and broke millions of hearts. This wasn't just a professional wrestler, this was a cultural icon who transcended his sport. Hulkamania wasn't just a catchphrase, it was a phenomenon. For children of the 80s and 90s, Hogan represented heroism, the triumph of good over evil, the power of believing in yourself. He body-slammed Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3 in front of 93,000 people. He told us to train, say our prayers, and take our vitamins. But here's the tragedy hidden in plain sight. Professional wrestling destroys bodies. The steroids, the impacts, the constant physical trauma, the painkillers needed to keep performing. It all takes a toll. Hogan's heart attack at 71 was almost predictable, given the punishment his body had endured over decades.
Hogan was a performer and an innovator, a man not without his scandals, but somebody who changed the face of wrestling forever.
Did you ever stop to wonder what price our heroes pay for our entertainment? Hogan gave us memories that will last forever, but he paid with years of his life. A heart attack is often the result of a lifetime of accumulated damage, and for wrestlers, that damage accumulates faster than for most. Terry Bollea, the man behind Hulk Hogan, underwent multiple back surgeries throughout his career. His knees were destroyed from years of leg drops. He'd admitted to using steroids during the era when they were common in wrestling. All of this contributed to the cardiovascular strain that eventually proved fatal. Hogan's influence extended far beyond wrestling rings. He starred in movies, had his own cartoon show, appeared on countless talk shows, and became one of the most recognizable faces in the world. He was wrestling's ambassador to mainstream America, making the sport acceptable family entertainment. The heart attack that killed him was massive and sudden. There was no time for goodbyes, no final public appearance, no chance to say everything he might have wanted to say. For someone who lived so much of his life in public, the private nature of his death feels somehow wrong. 9. Michelle Trachtenberg, A Young Life. Cut tragically short. This one hurts differently. February 26, 2025. Michelle Trachtenberg, known for playing Buffy's little sister Dawn in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Georgina Sparks in Gossip Girl, died from complications of diabetes mellitus at just 39 years old. 39. Let that sink in. This wasn't an elderly actor at the end of a long life. This was someone who should have had decades ahead of her. Diabetes is often called a silent killer, and here's why. It damages your body slowly, affecting circulation, kidneys, eyes, and nerves. When complications arise, they can cascade quickly. Type 1 or type 2. We don't know which form Trachtenberg battled, but what we do know is that diabetes management is a daily fight. One miscalculation, one infection, one medical emergency, and the situation can become life-threatening rapidly. For fans who grew up watching her on screen, this feels impossible. Dawn Summers was the little sister we worried about, and Georgina Sparks was the troublemaker we loved to hate. But the actress behind those characters faced a real-world battle that she ultimately couldn't win. Trachtenberg started acting as a child, appearing in The Adventures of Pete and Pete, before landing her breakout role on Buffy in the show's 5th season. The introduction of Dawn was controversial among fans, but Trachtenberg's performance won most of them over. She brought vulnerability and strength to a character who could have been merely annoying. On Gossip Girl, she played against type as Georgina, the chaos agent who stirred up trouble for the main characters. She was clearly having fun with the role, embracing the villainy with relish. It showed her range and proved she wasn't limited to playing innocent characters. The complications of diabetes that killed her could have included diabetic ketoacidosis, hypoglycemia, kidney failure, or cardiovascular complications. Each of these can turn fatal quickly, especially if the person is alone or unable to get immediate medical attention. The exact circumstances of her death haven't been made public, but the devastating reality is clear. A talented young actress is gone far too soon. 10. Robert Reiner. A shocking end for a Hollywood legend. December 14th, 2025. Save the most shocking for last. Rob Reiner, director of When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, and Stand By Me, as well as the actor who played Meathead on All in the Family, died from homicide at 78 years old. Homicide. Not natural causes, not an accident. Homicide. The details are still emerging, investigations are ongoing, but this represents perhaps the darkest entry on our list. Reiner wasn't just a filmmaker, he was a storyteller who understood the human condition. His films made us believe in love, in friendship, in justice, in the power of a good story. And now his story has ended in violence. The specifics of what happened on December 14th remain under investigation. But what we know is this: one of Hollywood's most beloved figures met an end that nobody could have predicted. What does it say about our society when even our most celebrated artists aren't safe? When someone who brought so much joy and laughter into the world can be taken from us through violence? Reiner's career began in front of the camera, playing Michael Meathead Stivic on All in the Family, the liberal son-in-law who constantly clashed with Archie Bunker. The show addressed serious social issues through comedy, and Reiner's performance was crucial to that balance. He won 2 Emmy Awards for the role. But it was behind the camera that Reiner truly excelled. His directorial debut, This Is Spinal Tap, created the mockumentary genre and remains one of the funniest films ever made. The Princess Bride has become a beloved fairy tale for multiple generations, its quotable lines embedded in popular culture. When Harry Met Sally redefined the romantic comedy, asking whether men and women could truly be friends. The film's exploration of relationships, timing, and the journey from friendship to love continues to resonate decades later. Stand By Me captured the bittersweet nostalgia of childhood friendships. A Few Good Men delivered courtroom drama with intensity and intelligence. Reiner was also politically active, using his platform to advocate for causes he believed in. He fought for marriage equality, environmental protection, and early childhood education. He was a man of conviction who wasn't afraid to take stands on controversial issues. The homicide ruling in his death has sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. Was it random violence? Targeted? Related to his political activism? The investigation continues, but the questions multiply. In the meantime, the entertainment world mourns the loss of a true giant, taken from us not by age or illness, but by another human being's violent actions. The ripple effect. What these losses mean for entertainment. When 10 major artists die in such a condensed time frame, it's not just 10 individual tragedies, it's a seismic shift in the cultural landscape. These weren't people on the periphery of entertainment, they were central figures whose work shaped how we understand storytelling, performance, and artistry itself. Consider the collective output of these 10 individuals. Hundreds of films and television shows, countless awards and nominations, billions of viewers and fans worldwide, entire genres defined or redefined by their contributions. This isn't just loss, it's a cultural catastrophe. And here's what keeps me up at night. Who replaces them? In an era of franchise films and risk-averse studios, where are the new David Lynch's pushing boundaries? Where are the Robert Redfords championing independent voices? Where are the Gene Hackmans dedicated purely to the craft rather than the celebrity? The industry has changed, Today's stars are brands first and artists second. Social media followers matter more than talent. Opening weekend box office numbers trump critical acclaim. In this environment, the kind of careers these 10 artists built might no longer be possible. Think about Lynch's uncompromising vision. Could Eraserhead get made today? Would a studio give a director 5 years to complete a deeply weird, uncommercial film? Or consider Redford's Sundance Institute? In an era where independent films struggle to find distribution, is there still room for the kind of artistic risk-taking Sundance was built to nurture? The loss of these particular artists at this particular moment feels like the end of something important. They represented a connection to a different era of filmmaking, when artistic vision could trump commercial concerns, when character actors could build long careers, when physical prowess in wrestling or martial arts could lead to film stardom. The human cost of fame. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. The price these artists paid for our entertainment. Hogan's body destroyed by decades of wrestling. Kilmer's voice stolen by cancer. Lynch's lungs compromised by cigarettes. Hackman's mind eroded by Alzheimer's. Fame and fortune don't protect you from the fundamental vulnerabilities of being human. If anything, the demands of celebrity, the constant travel, the stress, the pressure to perform, the difficulty maintaining healthy lifestyles, can accelerate physical decline. How many of these deaths were hastened by the very careers that made these artists famous? It's impossible to know for certain, but the correlation is hard to ignore. The entertainment industry consumes people. It takes their youth, their health, sometimes their sanity, and gives back money and fame. Poor substitutes for the years lost. Trachtenberg's death at 39 is particularly haunting in this context. Child actors face unique pressures. The transition from child star to adult actor is notoriously difficult. The scrutiny, the expectations, the loss of normal childhood experiences, all of it takes a toll. Could the stress of early fame have contributed to health issues that ultimately proved fatal? We can't say for sure, but it's worth considering. The cost of loss. 10 names. 10 remarkable careers. 10 irreplaceable voices now silent. As of mid-December 2025, the entertainment industry is reeling. These aren't just statistics. They're the artists who shaped our culture, who gave us the stories that defined our lives, who worked tirelessly to perfect their craft. Some died from natural causes after long lives well lived. Others were taken far too soon. Some succumbed to diseases that gave them time to prepare. Others left this world suddenly, shockingly, violently. But here's what they all share. They dedicated their lives to their art. They sacrificed privacy, health, sometimes relationships, all to bring us characters, stories, and moments that will outlive them all. The next time you watch Twin Peaks or The Godfather, the next time you quote The Princess Bride or watch Top Gun, remember the artists behind those works. Remember that they were real people with real struggles, real triumphs, and real legacies. Death is inevitable, but so is the human drive to create, to perform, to tell stories. These 10 artists are gone, but their work remains. And in that work, they've achieved a kind of immortality that transcends the biological limits of the human body. Subscribe to this channel to stay updated on the latest news from Hollywood. Share this video to honor these remarkable artists. And most importantly, go watch their films, their shows, their performances. Let their art live on through your appreciation. Because in the end, that's the greatest tribute we can pay. Not forgetting, not allowing their contributions to fade into obscurity, but keeping their work alive for future generations to discover and cherish. The entertainment world will continue. New stars will rise. new stories will be told. But there will never be another David Lynch, another Robert Redford, another Gene Hackman. These were singular talents who came along once in a lifetime. And now that lifetime has ended. Rest in peace to all these legends. The world is dimmer without your light, but the shadows you cast are long enough to guide future generations of artists who dare to dream, to create, to push boundaries, and to give everything they have to their craft. Thank you for your art. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for the memories that will last forever, long after the final credits have rolled on all our lives.